So children, in the last video, we saw how Heidi, an orphan, went to live to be Clara's companion to Frankfurt, and there she missed the mountains deeply and longed to go back to her home in the mountains. And we learned about her friend Peter too. There was a brief mention about him in the introduction that he used to graze her grandfather's goats, and there was a mention of Fraulein Rottenmeier, who was the housekeeper of Clara's house, and Clara's grandmother is the main character with along with Heidi, Frau Sissemann. So the last video ended with Heidi crying after looking at the pictures because it reminded her of her homes in the mountain. Yes, let's find out what happened next. So grandmother tried to pacify her. She took her hand gently, and they said, "Don't cry, dear child, don't cry." She said, "I understand this picture has reminded you of something perhaps, but look, there is a beautiful story about it too, and I'm going to tell you about it tonight. There are so many beautiful stories in the book which can be read over and over again. Come now, we must have a chat, so dry your tears." Okay, she pacified her, and Heidi tried very hard to stop sobbing. And when at last she succeeded, grandmother said, "Now tell me something, child. How are you getting along with lessons? I told you she was getting tutored along with Clara. So do you like your studies?" she asked. "Oh no," replied Heidi, sighing. "But I knew it would be impossible." "What is impossible, Heidi? What do you mean?" "To learn to read. It is so difficult." "You don't say so. And who told you this?" Now with this conversation, you see, we can see that Heidi has a preset mind. She has a prejudice that learning is very difficult and it is not for me. I will not be able to learn. She is directly telling that I knew that it was impossible, and grandma is trying to find out what is she thinking. Why is she thinking that it is impossible? Then Heidi tells that Peter told her that it was very difficult to learn to read. Then grandma said, "What a boy Peter must be then. But listen to me, Heidi, you must never believe what Peter say, but try yourself and find out." She meant to say that you should not believe what everybody says, especially when somebody says that this is impossible and can't be done. Yes, so you should try yourself and find out if it is possible to do something or not. And if you pay enough attention to your lessons and look properly at the letters, it is not impossible. It is very easy, in fact. Heidi is still telling, "No, it's of no use," and she, heaved a great sigh of resignation. Means she was just, she had given up before she started. "Now, Heidi, listen to what I have to say," says grandma, and she said, "If you have not been able to read because you have believed what Peter said, because you have preset your mind, your mind is filled with the prejudice that it's very difficult, I can't do it. So if you stop that blind belief in Peter's words, and try without having that prejudice, you will actually learn to read, because I have seen children like you and Peter. You are not like Peter. Okay, you will be able to read in no time if you try. Okay, so first you should know what will happen if you are able to read. You see this picture of shepherd and beautiful green pastures. You will have this book all for yourself. Okay, and you will be able to read all the beautiful wonderful things that happened to the shepherd. Nobody, you will not depend on others to tell you a story. You will read that yourself. Now Heidi was listening with keen attention, and now she exclaimed with sparkling eyes, "Oh, if only I could read already!" She was interested. She was interested in the fact that if I am able to read, I don't have to go to anyone to listen to stories. I can find out all about the stories myself. I can read and understand myself. That excited her. Okay, then grandma knew that now she is hooked. She will try to read. Her interest got sparked, and then she said, "Okay, we'll take the book with us, and now we'll go and see Clara." Now the scene ends there. Then from that day, Heidi tried to go home and tried to study. Okay, but one day Heidi tried to go home, means she tried to leave for the mountains, and Fraulein Rottenmeier scolded her, and she said that you are being ungrateful. Clara's family is taking such good care of you, and you are being ungrateful and trying to run away from here. Okay, so she knew that now she cannot go home whenever she liked, and she had to stay in Frankfurt for a long time, maybe forever, and that depressed her. And there was nobody to whom she could share how homesick she was, okay, how much she missed. Now she could not even face giving the grandmother, Clara's grandmother, who was so kind to her, cause to be angry, as Fraulein Rottenmeier had been. Now the housekeeper had scolded her, and as Heidi was a small girl, she thought, if I share this to someone else also that I want to go home, maybe they will be angry with me too, and they will say that you are ungrateful. So because of that fear, she didn't share herself with anyone. And because she didn't share, it's very important, children, to share. She was not sharing. She didn't have parents to, so she was under a lot of pressure. So what happened? She lost her appetite, and she stopped eating and grew thin. She couldn't sleep. She lay awake for long hours thinking of her life in the mountains. Whenever she fell asleep, she dreamt of the red summits and sunshines and the flowers. And when she got up in the morning, she will feel like I'm there, and she wished to run, but then she would realize that she was in Frankfurt, lying in her big bed. Then Heidi would just weep long and quietly, her head pressed into the pillow so that no one could hear, because she thought, if anybody will know that I want to go from here, I'm missing my home, they will think that I am being ungrateful because they were taking such good care of her. Now children, when your parents take care of you, you don't feel that pressure that they are doing something very great for me, so I have to be at my best behavior just to make them happy. You just assume that this is my right, that they are taking care of me. You don't even think like that, but it automatically, your brain registered it like that. Mere mummy papa hai, they have to do this for me. Okay, but when somebody who is not related to you is kind, and you feel grateful, okay, they are doing this for me, so there is a certain kind of pressure in your mind to behave in a particular way. This is what happened to Heidi, and she was an orphan. She didn't have her parents to share to, nobody, and because of just a silly behavior by the housekeeper, Fraulein Rottenmeier, she had this deep-seated fear that if I share that I am unhappy, people will think that I am ungrateful. Okay, but Clara's grandmother, she was very good, and she was a senior. Because of her age, she was wise, she had wisdom, so didn't escape her notice. She noticed what was going on with Heidi, and one day she asked her what the matter was. Heidi was afraid to tell her the truth. Okay, but grandmother was very smart. She thought, okay, let's motivate the child in some other way. Okay, so she asked her, could you tell Clara if you don't want to share with me? Heidi replied, no, I cannot tell anyone, because she feared they will think that I am ungrateful. Then Clara's grandmother told Heidi, okay, little one, if you don't want to speak to anyone about it, you must pray to God for help. That will lessen your pain. A sudden look of joy came into Heidi's eye. May I tell him everything? And she said, yes, you can tell him everything. Then she started confiding in God. And what happens, dear children? You all need someone who, when they listen to you, do not judge you. You know, that's why we have parents and grandparents. With them, we share everything, and we don't think that they will think that we are being silly, or we are being, when we fight and when we ask them for something, we don't feel that hesitation because we don't feel that they will judge us for what I'm asking them. Okay, so like she didn't have anyone, but when she started speaking to God, the burden from her heart lifted. You know, it eased the pain. And then she suddenly, because the mental pressure that she had eased, she started learning too. In a week, the tutor gave the good news that she started to read. She learned how to read overnight. Unlike most beginners who take time, she started reading overnight because her reading capabilities were blocked by the prejudice and the sadness of not being able to share herself. Okay, so life is full of miracles. Frau Sisman smiled. She knew that she had done that, but she didn't tell anyone. Okay, and she said that I'm just glad that she made a good beginning, and I hope for a future progress. The grandmother went down to the study and make sure for the good news that sure enough was. So she went and saw that Heidi was sitting beside Clara and reading aloud to her, evidently very much surprised herself. Heidi was herself surprised that I'm able to read. Okay, and she was getting more and more delighted as the new world of words were opening to her, and the black letters they came alive and turned into men and things and exciting stories. And the same evening at dinner table, Heidi found the book that grandmother had showed her, the beautiful picture book, and she had promised that I'll give it to you if you start reading. So she had finally given it to her. So Heidi looked questioning with questions in her eyes at grandmother, and the old lady nodded kindly to said her and said, yes, it is yours now. Mine to keep always, even when I go home? Asked Heidi, flushed with happiness. Yes, of course, forever, grandmother assured her. Tomorrow we will start to read it. And before she went to bed, Heidi looked at her book. From that day on, her greatest pleasure was to read over and over again the stories which belong to the beautiful pictures. And this is how the story in your chapter, in your lesson ends. But in the novel, the story continues. Okay, it finishes with Clara being cured of her illness, because of which she is not able to walk. So whenever you get time, try to read that beautiful novel. Okay, in the next video we will discuss the story of this lesson. In the next lesson we will discuss the poem of this lesson, As I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud.